On the day of my 6th anniversary with Ryan Moore, his first love got divorced. Their old flame was rekindled when I found out I was pregnant. I had a lot to do before I left. I wanted him to remember that it took him 6 years to cover my heart. I want him to fantasize that he could have had a happy family. On the day of my 6th anniversary with Ryan Moore, his first love, Luna Green, came back. When the song Family was on the verge of bankruptcy, Luna Green immediately kicked him out and climbed into someone else's bed. She didn't think she would have the face to come back, pulling her child with her, begging Ryan Moore to give them a place to stay. I watched as Ryan Moore took off his tail ring, which never left his body, and threw it into the garbage can at the diner. "Fish it out, and I'll help you." Luna Green looked into the bucket of greasy, warm leftovers and suddenly cried out in pain. Ryan Moore took my hand and didn't look back. "Let's go home." I thought that after that day, love or hate, Ryan Moore had moved on. If only I hadn't found that tail ring in his wallet. A few days later, Ryan Moore was so drunk that his assistant Chris helped him back. "Sister-in-law, I've had a lot of socializing lately, so don't blame Big Brother." I understood. I said, "I've been working on the art project for a while, so I'll go back to the office when I'm done, so I'm sorry for your hard work." Ryan Moore, who was leaning on me, sobered up and looked at me cautiously. "Vivienne Thompson, I've asked Luna Green to come to the office as a housekeeper." I froze and quickly smiled. "I believe you. We've been together for 6 years. Those 6 years of affection and trust shouldn't be crushed in one meeting." My face was calm. Ryan Moore could not say what he wanted to say. "She's a gold digger and vicious, unlike you, Vivienne Thompson. My AU is so good now, she must regret it." I smiled and touched the side of his face. The bedroom light was hazy. He rubbed my head like he did in the heat of the moment, a little ambiguous as he unbuttoned his shirt with one hand. "But I still don't feel good about it, we don't have any kids of our own yet. We went to the doctor about a year ago and they said that everything was fine physically and to let nature take its course." I gently pushed Ryan Moore away. "I've been feeling a little sick lately. My period had been delayed and my stomach felt a little sore. Go to the hospital and have a look." He wrapped his arms around me gently. "We need to have a baby too. I don't know why, but when it comes to children, my heart flutters. It's time to go to the hospital." Ryan Moore didn't lie to me. Luna Green does do housekeeping. She was dressed in a black janitorial outfit, awkwardly sorting trash. She wore a mask that showed she was wearing makeup and perfume. When she saw me, Luna Green froze. She looked me over from head to toe with complicated eyes, and finally her gaze landed on the diamond ring on my ring finger. She didn't move away for a long time. "Mr. Moore is coming for a meeting soon, clean up," Chris urged her. When she heard that Ryan Moore was coming, she suddenly knelt down in front of me and cleaned up the floor. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson, I'll clean it up, don't be mad." She looked down and pitied me. It's as if I'm trying to make things difficult for her. But Ryan Moore did see it, and frowned unnoticeably. "Why are you suddenly scrubbing on your knees? Didn't you just mop the floor rather perfunctorily?" Chris snorted, as if Sister Vivienne Thompson was giving you a hard time. Ryan Moore was not pleased and interrupted Chris. "Stop it." Ryan Moore was obviously a bit distracted during the meeting, and the few times I brought up the issue of art coordination, he was lost in thought. He kept glancing out the door, intentionally or not. In the middle of the meeting, he took advantage of a phone call to go outside. The conference room was so quiet that even Luna Green sobbing outside the door could be heard. She cries and says that she left back then because she didn't feel safe and she was too scared. She said that their family was also being chased for debts in the beginning, and she was so scared that she cried all night long. She said she just envied me for being able to be right there with him as a wise woman. Ryan Moore was silent at the door for a long, muffled moment. "If you hadn't left when you were 19, that seat beside me would have belonged to you." The crowd stared at me in disbelief. "Mr. Moore's absence doesn't prevent us from having a meeting, does it?" I nodded. "Chris, you are his secretary, you know Mr. Moore's planning well." Ryan Moore's proposal was rejected by me, and I kicked out Ryan Moore's intended art company. Ryan Moore had no objections, or in fact he wasn't even interested in the art program. After the art partnership was negotiated, I traveled for a week to follow up. When I returned, Luna Green's desk was next door to Ryan Moore's. Not housekeeping, but Ryan Moore's assistant now. She was wearing a jacket the same color as mine, a super short skirt and high heels, and her hair was meticulously done. Compared to how she looked outside the restaurant, it was truly heaven and earth. When she saw me, Luna Green's lipstick hand froze, and she stood up in a panic and bowed to me. "Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Moore is just taking pity on me, he doesn't mean anything else." I ignored her. Pushing open the door, Ryan Moore was waiting for me. Before I could say anything, Ryan Moore had already closed the blinds, separating us from her. I was trying to show her that I'm not the poor boy I was now. Ryan Moore hugged me carefully. "I have nothing else in mind, don't worry." I was silent, the words to fire Luna Green caught in his throat. For a moment I didn't know what to say. It did cross my mind that Ryan Moore had lingering feelings for her, but there was no hard evidence. I didn't want to turn into a snooping, jealous woman who got hysterical over the slightest whiff of tea. Ryan Moore circled me in his own arms and held my hand. The tail ring that pinched my hand hurt. That day, Luna Green's kid came to the office. He rummaged through the front desk lady's locker and made a scene drinking water and puking on the planning computer. Luna Green also persuade 2 sentences. He began to cry, lying on the ground rolling and splashing. I want the assistant to warn Luna Green. "Don't bring your children to the company during working hours, it affects other people's work. If the planner has to work overtime, the bonus for overtime will be deducted from your performance." Luna Green froze, then looked down and started to cry. The boy was 8 years old, and when he saw his mom crying, he picked up a glass of water and threw it at me. I couldn't avoid it, and my wrist was suddenly black and blue. He was still screaming. "Bitch! Bitch! If you hadn't been a mistress, how could Dad have separated from Mom?" The office was in an uproar, and Ryan Moore rushed in. Ryan Moore rushes in. He subconsciously looks at Luna Green, who's kneeling on the floor protecting the baby, and then at me. "Daddy!" He throws himself into Ryan Moore's arms and makes a face at me. There are whispers around the room and Ryan Moore is embarrassed. "Is that your baby?" I looked at Ryan Moore coldly. "No. How could it be?" Hearing me ask that, he actually subconsciously glanced at the boy. He made sure that the kid didn't look a bit like him before he was too busy denying it. The child called him randomly. His father left a long time ago. He may think that Mr. Moore is affectionate, so. Luna Green reddened her eyes again. "I'm sorry, Ms. Vivienne Thompson, don't be so mean to the child, he's still young." "Vivienne Thompson, let's go deal with the injury first." Ryan Moore's eyes were full of pain as he saw my wrist bruised. Luna Green froze and gritted her teeth, raising her hand to slap the boy. "I'll let you upset, Ms. Vivienne Thompson." Ryan Moore stopped her, telling her not to hit the boy. The 3 of them were like a family of strict mothers and fathers, and I was the aggressive villain. Ryan Moore puts a cold pack on me, and I look down at him. The heartache for me at the moment is real, the anxiety is real. But the defending of Luna Green and the baby just now is also real. After all these years, is it hate, or is it just a matter of will? Ryan Moore, can you tell the difference? Vivienne Thompson, don't blame them. Luna Green is also quite poor. A woman with a child is not easy. The child recognizes the birth of a child is also a bit capricious, but the nature is not bad. I interrupted him. Did I make it difficult for them? If she's a baby, then why did she jump into your arms when she saw you? How far did you go when I knew, or didn't know? It took him a moment to realize he'd said the wrong thing. Ryan Moore, can I trust you? Ryan Moore froze at my question. This ring, did she give it to you? Don't lie to me. Ryan Moore doesn't know that I knew Luna Green before he did. When my parents got divorced, it was because of the Ginger family. Luna Green and I are from the same hometown and high school classmates. Her parents made a small fortune in clothing. Later, Luna Green's parents said they were doing finance, and they went door to door to get people to invest in their stocks, investing 100,000 yuan with a monthly interest of 5,000 yuan. My parents took out all the savings, and borrowed a circle of money, a total of 300,000, all to them. They lost all their money. The police said it's an illegal fundraising, Ponzi scheme. Luna Green's father disappeared with the money, leaving Luna Green and her mother. Her mother just cries and won't say anything about paying back the money. He borrowed the money, what's it got to do with us orphans and widows? The Kong family is adamant that they don't have any money. But for 3 years in high school, Luna Green's mother continued to frequent beauty salons, and Luna Green's cell phone was always the latest model. The Ginger family cheated a lot of people, and even after college, there were rumors that her family were all crooks. In his freshman year, Ryan Moore was still an unbeatable rich kid, driving a different color limousine to the school every day to pursue Luna Green, and even fought with others in order to give Luna Green a head start. It was quite a big deal. Even after the breakup, Ryan Moore always believed that Luna Green was really innocent and pure. Later on, the Song family's financial chain broke. The top family was holding on to the money, and the bottom family was in a hurry to settle the debt. Ryan Moore's family went bankrupt and his parents jumped off the building. It was snowing heavily that day. 19-year-old Ryan Moore knelt in front of her, crying and begging her to wait for him. He said that his family was broken and she was the faith that kept him alive. He said he wouldn't let her suffer after him, but only begged her to wait for him. Luna Green took the hand of her new love and didn't give him a single glance. Their love for each other and their separation were both sensational and well known. That's why when I first saw Ryan Moore, I had a hard time connecting the legendary rich kid Ryan Moore with the delivery boy who put his head together in front of me. "Are you done with Uber Eats 78? I nodded and handed him my barbecue. For 6 months, that was the extent of our interactions. Until the day a group of drunken men asked me for my contact information and made a move. I stood stiffly, afraid to move or cry. Ryan Moore cursed the grass, took off his jacket and wrestled with them. There was no way I could fight them. Ryan Moore dislocated his left hand and suffered a bruise. I'm glad I didn't pay them off. Your counselor was nice. I don't know why I had tears in my eyes when I saw him acting cool. Hey! Don't cry. It doesn't hurt, it really doesn't hurt. If you don't believe me, give me a punch." He panicked and took my hand and gave himself a punch. But the wound really hurt, and he grimaced in pain, so I laughed. When I laughed, he laughed too. That's right, you look much better smiling than crying. The counselor calmed the situation down and got me a part-time job at the library. Ryan Moore and I became friends. He drove me back to my dorm room every day for fear of retaliation. Even though my dorm room was less than 100 meters from the library. We didn't go to the same school, and he drove me for 2 years. During these 2 years, Ryan Moore confessed his love to me 4 times. I was in love with Ryan Moore, I knew it. But my parents were divorced, and the debt I owed left me with a lot of concerns. But Ryan Moore was persistent, he wasn't discouraged by rejection, he just scratched his head. Then, I'll think of something. Even though his family has fallen, Ryan Moore's passionate and flamboyant nature cannot be changed. And I'm a gentle person, even if the garden in my heart has 10,000 roses for the other person, I won't give them generously. It took him 2 years to make the ice melt. Freshman year, Ryan Moore had invested in his housemates to start a game. Later on, Ryan Moore made one himself and dragged me to play it. The game developed by Ryan Moore is very simple. It is a little man who goes around collecting things to use as keys to break through the levels. He used dandelions as parachutes and fireflies as candles to go on adventures. It's simple, but fun. Oddly enough, a villain with no gender has a zodiac sign. It's Virgo. I asked Ryan Moore, who only laughed. I'll tell you when you get to the last level. The last level is a deserted island in the sky, guarded by a monster called the Beast of Time. He doesn't bleed when you hit him, he doesn't eat gold when you give it to him, and he can't open the door with the key. The last level was a long time coming. It was the day before graduation when Ryan Moore asked me if I had beaten the level. I said it was hard, I tried many things, but the monsters wouldn't let me pass. Ryan Moore told me to give the monster the seeds of the rosebud. So I saw a screen full of rosebuds blooming on a deserted island. Game over. The next day at graduation, Ryan Moore asked me to say goodbye. We were walking around the playground twice when it suddenly poured. We lumbered outside the library to escape the rain. The rain cascaded down like a waterfall and the thunder rumbled, but Ryan Moore's voice was unmistakable. He looked at me seriously. Over the years, you've rejected me 4 times. The first time, you said your horoscopes didn't match. The second time, you said you didn't like guys. The villain in the game is me, I have no gender, I'm a Virgo, and I'm a good match for Vivienne Thompson's Taurus, he said. The 4th time, you're afraid that even if you're together, you'll be separated. I know about your family, I know you are insecure, so I am serious, I will marry you when I earn money, We will have a happy family. I will be good to you for the rest of your life. But the weather is terrible today. I know you are going to reject me again. He was frustrated. Because the third time I rejected him by saying it was cloudy and I was in a bad mood. It's a bad day with heavy rainstorms. Over the years, I have learned little, only that life is like a torrent, and that if you don't hold on to each other's hands you will be swept away in the sea of people. I give you the game of IU way, take care of yourself. I'm afraid it's hard to see you again in the future. That's it then, I still have to go back to pack my things. Ryan Moore didn't dare to look at me, he thought this time he was going to be rejected by me again. But I took his hand. Then we'll go together, okay? His eyes went from disbelief to ecstasy. After graduating from college, Ryan Moore went his own way, and started a game studio called Micro. We met at Micro. Ryan Moore, Vivienne Thompson. Like he promised. In order to get investment, we rode the subway for 4 hours. When we were poor, we only ate noodles and boiled vegetables, and instant noodles were considered a luxury. There is no qualification to go to the game show, there is no money to advertise, 40-degree day, we just hand out flyers in front of the exhibition hall. When Yue's annual revenue was $10 million, he got down on one knee in the midst of the studio's revelry. Put on a 3-carat ring for me. Vivienne Thompson, I know what it's like to be betrayed, so I will never fail you. I will give you a home and never let you down. Our 6-year relationship couldn't be taken lightly. Ryan Moore fired Luna Green and threw away the ring she gave him. Everything seemed to go back to normal. Except for the wrist injury, which was about as cold as it gets and never got better. We had a tacit agreement not to mention her, but this tacit agreement made her seem to be everywhere. We didn't say a word about her, but it was as if we thought about her before we said anything. For Christmas, Ryan Moore booked a fancy restaurant. I was thinking of coming over for dinner on your birthday. He skillfully sliced off a steak for me. Ryan Moore's cell phone lit up, alerting him to a WhatsApp message. He subconsciously glanced at me before looking down and replying to the message, a smile on his lips that he didn't even notice. Realizing I was looking at him, he hastily withdrew his smile and told me it was a client. I nodded, resting my cheeks on him, looking out the window. After all these years, his appearance has hardly changed. Instead, all these years of experience have made his profile more mature. I thought I was almost healed, but it turns out I still have a dull ache when I reach for my fork. Outside the window, there was a couple looking out. But this one is a bit expensive, the boy has to be brave in front of his sweetheart. The girl kindly pulled the boy's sleeve and shook her head. They were holding a steaming hot fried rice cake, craning their necks in the cold wind, looking at each other and smiling. For some reason, I suddenly envied them. Ryan Moore finally put down his cell phone. Go back, I'm full. He shields me on the inside of the sidewalk, takes my hand and puts it in his pocket. These days, Ryan Moore has been deliberately spending time with me like it's a hot date. We go on dates, take walks, and fall asleep cuddling after a movie. I've always felt heavy lately, but I don't sleep soundly. Ryan Moore places a light kiss on my forehead and turns off the projection. The cell phone under his pillow has a message on it and stays lit. Ryan Moore tries to call my name. I pretend to be asleep and don't respond. He carefully turns around to touch his phone and goes to the balcony to answer it. He may not actually be talking to Luna Green, but I can't trust him anymore. Ryan Moore went out the door and I sat up in the darkness and thought for a long time. I thought about how I was going to fix this relationship. But I couldn't forget Ryan Moore's red-eyed nod when I asked if the ring was from her. That ring was thrown away, but the ring marks on my hand still stung from years of wear and tear. I wondered if I was making too big a deal out of it. Obviously there had been no substantial cheating, and now the outings probably weren't even for her, they were because of work. But I don't want to be the kind of suspicious jealous woman, because a little wind and grass on the hysteria, with green tea junior pull head flower to compete for favor to grab a man. The love that is not firm is no longer love. Obviously can be in the first meeting, with her clear relationship. Obviously can keep a distance, but use my trust, get an inch. Cold wind blew in through the window, blowing Ryan Moore's 6-year warm heart a little bit cold. But even after thinking through all the pros and cons, I can't help but feel sad. I don't want to cry, but my tears won't obey me. It turns out that after all these years, I still can't have a home of my own. Our 6 years of ordinary, snuggling and warmth like plain water look so bleak in front of his and Luna Green's bone-chilling memories. I can't even recall anything poignant to prove that God had to have us together. We were plainly meeting, falling in love, and then falling apart. What was he and she? It was a broken mirror, a wife-chasing crematorium, a teenager unavailable to be trapped for life. Pregnancy interrupted my plans to showdown with Ryan Moore for divorce. A pregnancy test with 2 bars left me a little overwhelmed. If it wasn't for Ryan Moore, I wouldn't have wanted a child. I was afraid of pain, of dying, and of not being able to raise a life well. Although Ryan Moore's family was poor, he had parents who loved him. Unlike me, my parents fought a lot when my family ran out of money. I was like a stumbling block to their next good life, being kicked around and growing up by stumbling. I thought a family with each other was enough. But Ryan Moore has subbed in as a father countless times. He reserved the children's room during the renovation. Since he didn't know if it was a boy or a girl, he simply painted it light green. The Lego wall in the kids' room was too expensive for me to part with, so Ryan Moore wheedled me into turning it into a chalkboard. He also made a row of bookcases, pointing excitedly to the empty ones. The bottom tier is picture books, then story books, and when he grows this tall, it will be 5 years of higher education, 3 years of simulation. I laughed at him. He doesn't like to read, but he already fantasizes that his child will be a high achiever. But as he said this over and over again, I actually had a little bit of expectation. I sat in that empty children's room and thought for a long time. I thought about divorced parents. They were hysterical after their divorce and grabbed everything they could from each other. The only thing they didn't want was me. Ryan Moore had been expecting this child for 6 years, but he wasn't a mature father. He's still the same boy who knelt before Luna Green at 19. I decided to give him a chance. I'm pregnant. I placed the pregnancy slip in front of Ryan Moore, 1 month. Ryan Moore froze and excitedly helped me sit down. Don't stand, don't work, I'll have the driver take you back this afternoon, get well. I leaned on Ryan Moore and pampered him, saying I wanted him to stay with me. It's going to snow soon in Haiju. We've known each other for so many years in Haiju, I want to go back and visit. Ryan Moore was so willing to make me happy, he took half a month off. Again, he couldn't wait to drag me to the mall in the afternoon. Maternity clothes, strollers, picture cards. The sales ladies could see Ryan Moore's joy at being a first-time father and wasted no time in selling him all sorts of baby stuff. Ryan Moore held up pink and blue baby clothes and giggled as he asked me which one was better. I stood quietly and watched him laugh. We don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet, so we're buying pink. Ryan Moore was a little childish and asked for both. Ryan Moore was a bit childish and asked for both. When I got home, Ryan Moore pointed the maternity dress at me. Maternity clothes are girly, white baby doll dresses, with ruffled hems. It's just like the white dresses you wore when we were in love, she says, and smiles at me. And then you smile at me, and I just want to give you my heart. Ryan Moore couldn't stop smiling as he remembered the old days. I sat on the couch, cuddling with a pillow, and tilted my head to watch him go about his business. He was so meticulous that he changed his slippers to non-slip ones and knelt on the floor to change them for me. He got down on one knee like he was proposing to me. The sunlight poured through the window onto the floor, illuminating the fine dust in the air and glowing with a golden light. He ran forward and backward, and the empty children's room was filled with one piece at a time. All the children's things were so delicate and small. The crib was fitted with starry bed bells that tinkled when the wind blew. Even the picture books were colorfully arranged according to age. All the cabinets are covered with bumper stickers. The style of the house suddenly changed from Scandinavian minimalism to a children's playground. I was amazed at his meticulousness. Ryan Moore, however, said with red eyes that after his parents passed away, he had been looking forward to a complete home for 8 years. Ryan Moore stayed with me and rarely even looked at his cell phone anymore. He wanted to accompany me to my labor and delivery, but I said that I had just been there last time, and that I'd better go to the hospital less often now that I had a lot of flu. I still slept uneasily. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw Ryan Moore talking on the phone on the balcony, scratching his hair in annoyance every now and then. I heard the familiar sound of sobbing on the other end of the phone, and the noise of a little boy. I looked at him quietly, and Ryan Moore froze and quickly hung up the phone. "Why are you standing there, are you cold?" No, I woke up from a nightmare and wanted some water. Aren't you going to ask me who I'm talking to on the phone? Ryan Moore spoke hesitantly. I believe you. I touched the side of his face. With a little moonlight, I could see the guilt in his eyes. Turns out he wasn't immune to guilt. He took me into his arms and buried his head in my neck, muffled. Vivienne Thompson, I promise, I will never fail you again. It was snowing in haiku. He probably deleted Luna Green and held my hand tightly all the way, not once looking at his cell phone. The new snow was soft, and there was a creaking sound when I stepped on it. Underneath my down jacket, I wore the white dress that Ryan Moore loves. It was snowing so hard that people were getting a little childish. As soon as my snow boots made a snowflake footprint, I smiled back at him. Seeing how happy I was, Ryan Moore curled his mouth too. The food court in the college town was rebuilt once. The barbecue stand where I worked is long gone. I still found that seat by memory, and now it's a cell phone repairer. You didn't think about the consequences of helping me out in the first place. I did. Ryan Moore rubbed my head, but you were so scared, but you still refused to cry or ask for help, you were so stubborn. Stubborn, I said, and I was instantly impressed. But I never imagined that such a stubborn girl would become my wife. Ryan Moore smiles when he talks about the past. Do you remember I chased you for 2 years? 2 whole years. The first time you rejected me was when you said our signs didn't match. The second time, you said you didn't like guys. I smiled at his willingness to bring up the past. The last time is before graduation. I told you I want to buy you way to give you, want you to take care of yourself. After separated will be very difficult to see each other again. Then you pulled my sleeve, red eyes, and did not say anything. I remember that scene until now. How did you reject me for the 4th time? I looked at him like I was predicting some kind of doomed ending. Ryan Moore, even if we're together, we'll be apart. He froze, but was more scared than I was and was busy stopping me. We're not going to break up. We're not going to break up. We stayed at a hotel in a college town. We were like a couple in love. During the day, we ate a cheap and hot snack, and the last piece of fried chicken was given to the other person. In the evening, we went for a walk in the playground where we had our date, and the evening breeze couldn't stop the heat from blowing on our faces. He was reminded a little bit of how we met and fell in love. Ryan Moore's excitement and youthfulness when he talked about the past. He overlapped a little with his 19-year-old self. He remembers all the things he loved about me. Then when did the hand that was clasped in the beginning loosen? If our love at first sight, mutual salvation, mutual love is as precious as he said, then why would it be no better than a bitter betrayal? It was snowing at night, colder, and the people on the road were in a hurry. Under the streetlight, I asked Ryan Moore to close his eyes. I looked closely at his brow. He'd hardly changed in the past 6 years. Still the same look I fell in love with. It's as if these 6 years have been a dream of an afternoon snooze. The next moment, he'll still be poking his head out the window, urging me to pack the takeout faster. A little bit of snow fell on our eyebrows and eyelashes, and there were a few hints of white heads drenched in snow. He's really making me give up. But luckily, I knew I might go soft. So the baby was aborted before I told him. I wasn't so brave to think about giving him a chance. I checked Ryan Moore's cell phone, the car records. As long as that day had nothing to do with Luna Green, I forgave him. But in the middle of the night, it was Luna Green's kid who had a fever, and he accompanied her to the emergency room. He was still the same 19-year-old Ryan Moore, but I couldn't wait for him to grow up. In the snow, I handed him the divorce papers along with a diamond ring. Ryan Moore, let's get a divorce. The attorney divided the assets clearly. Ryan Moore owns no shares of Igloo and receives only an executive salary. The house he lives in now was bought with his savings and loans, and I don't want to fight for it. In the final analysis, Ryan Moore is also considered to be a clean slate. The only problem is that Ryan Moore doesn't want a divorce. Ryan Moore saw the agreement and went red for a second. He shivered and read it twice, his eyes full of disbelief. Well, why do you want a divorce? Is it really good? I looked at him calmly. Luna Green? Is it Luna Green? Ryan Moore snapped, I have nothing to do with her. Seeing my silence, Ryan Moore panicked. I've deleted her and promised not to see her again. The baby isn't mine either, I swear. Ryan Moore, it doesn't matter. Then what does matter? What is it about? He grabbed my arm pleadingly. Haven't we had a good 2 days? Haven't we had a good time? I interrupted him. If you don't get a divorce, I'll get rid of the baby. He looked at me in shock and dropped to his knees heavily, grabbing the hem of my skirt. Vivienne Thompson, I swear I didn't do anything wrong to you. At first I wanted to get back at you, then I felt soft. I can't leave the baby without a father, our future is just beginning. It's too late. It's already too late. I jerked the dress away from him a little. Ryan Moore, it's better for the baby if we part ways decently. He looked at me blankly, trying to find a little bit of resignation in my eyes. I saw myself reflected in his eyes. There was no remorse, no regret, not even hate. Just indifference. Ryan Moore didn't show up at work this month, and several times Chris couldn't reach him. He just shut himself in his room. When I came home today, he happily flew over to meet me. Only to find out I was just back to move. Ryan Moore watched as the mover slowly dismantled the home we had built over the past 6 years. The pair of couple water glasses we bought at the amusement park. There's a tiny refrigerator sticker on the fridge, like clay we made on a trip to Hawaii, so ugly that you can barely tell it's me and him. There was also a pink crystal ball with an island full of rosebuds. I don't want anything related to him. There's nothing to take away from the children's room, so don't bother looking. Don't want any of these, get rid of them. Thank you, Master. Ryan Moore had lost a lot of weight and was gaunt. He watched me throw my memories into a cardboard box and asked me hopefully, do you want to take them with you? Pack it up for easy disposal. Don't throw them away, leave them to me. I didn't argue. Ryan Moore was full of bitterness and still expected me to be nostalgic. You and the child, well. I'll get you back again, okay. The child has been aborted. Ryan Moore froze. Why? I aborted it after you went to the hospital with her and I found out. I didn't want her to be sick and her father to be with someone else. Why did you lie to me? Because I don't believe you love me anymore. I wasn't sure that you would have a clear conscience and give me everything you owed me. Because I don't think that you'll be that good to me. I don't trust you anymore. In the rearview mirror, Ryan Moore stood and watched me for a long time. His shadow grew smaller and shorter in the field of vision and finally disappeared. The first thing I did when I got back to the office was to fire Ryan Moore. Ryan Moore had no objections. Unexpectedly, a week later, Luna Green found me. I thought they had renewed their relationship after Ryan Moore and I divorced and were going to come and flaunt it. Instead, she knelt in front of me with her children. I can't reach him, but the debt collectors are coming to my door, and I just don't have a choice. I'm divorced from Ryan Moore. I don't know anything about him. Luna Green froze and quickly responded. I didn't mean to come between you. I don't care what happens to me, I don't want a name, it's just that the kids are so pathetic. Mr. Moore is just pitying me. My parents divorced a long time ago. After so many years, she still hasn't changed. When she was in college, Luna Green's new boyfriend had a deep background. Even if Luna Green skipped classes and missed school, and even if the public opinion of the old scoundrels intensified, it didn't affect her honor rating all the way. So what should I do? I didn't cause their family to die. Luna Green, dressed in designer labels and speaking as a student representative, first reddened her eyes and said pitifully, who can choose their own family? She is always so innocent and weak, so good at pretending to be a weak person to justify herself. She is so good at pretending to be a weak person to justify herself. She cheated because she was insecure, and she became a mistress because her children were forced to make a living. More than 20 years of Missy's pampered life was because it was her parents and her husband who did the evil, and she was just innocently enjoying it. My parents divorced after they were lied to by you guys. I interrupted, I would have been your age, tuition loans, working my ass off, and the year after I graduated, I paid off all my debts. She froze. Desperately trying to recall, but simply could not remember who I was. That was my parents' generation too, I didn't know about it. Luna Green gave me a careful look, realizing that I wasn't trying to rehash old debts. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, it's the baby that's clamoring for a dad and Ryan Moore loves kids. There's no need to pretend with me, you knew my name was Vivienne Thompson the first time you met me. Who taught the kid to call out for daddy and who taught him to call out for mistress? I don't have time to fight with her here, Ryan Moore you fight, but not with me, I've already thrown out the garbage. During my marriage to Ryan Moore, He bought a condo in your name at full price for a total of $2 million. I do know. Within a month, either pay it back or see you in court. I know your status is still clean right now, and I know you're afraid of being a lifelong scumbag like your dad. Saying this, Luna Green's face had turned pale. The little boy leaned close to her and looked at me blankly. For some reason, I suddenly thought of the child in my stomach, the one who didn't make it to this world. I wanted to go over to the father to keep the child, but I knew myself well. Too short of love to go soft. I won't forgive Ryan Moore, but I will certainly forgive the father who took responsibility. It's not that I haven't had my heart in the right place, thinking that maybe with a child, Ryan Moore would change and never let me be sad again. But I've never been one of the lucky ones who dared to gamble, that I was the exception to a million misfortunes. There's always someone at the office who sends flowers. No message, no signature, but I knew it was Ryan Moore. I thought they could continue their relationship without me in the middle. After all, Ryan Moore wasn't a bad hire, and he was given a nice settlement for his dismissal. With his resume, it would be easy to find a decent job. And Luna Green, with her delicate demeanor born of years of enrichment, shouldn't have too much trouble finding someone to rely on again, even with a child. Life in this world is not like a novel, where the scum of the earth are ruined and get their comeuppance quickly. We are all still in the world, making our own way in the world. The weather is getting warmer, it's May. When I left work, it was 6 o'clock. The sun was setting when I came out of the office. Ryan Moore had been waiting downstairs at the streetlight for a long time. He was holding a bouquet of pink roses, the side of his face much thinner. The light blue shirt he used to wear from before was surprisingly a bit ill-fitting. He looked like the 19-year-old Ryan Moore who waited for me downstairs in the library and insisted on walking me back to my dormitory, which was only 60 meters away. Happy birthday. I almost forgot, it's my birthday. Thanks. I took the flowers and was wondering how to turn him down. I'll give you a ride, I won't pester you. Ryan Moore, always a man of high emotional intelligence, saw my concern at once. At dusk, the road was filled with pedestrians in a hurry and couples walking quietly together. Vivienne Thompson, do you still hate me? Halfway through the silence, he couldn't help but open his mouth. He didn't understand that the opposite of love was never hate, it was not caring. To love and hate was to be at ease, and to not care was to not care anymore. I don't hate you. You may not believe me, I didn't take that step, my heart never changed these 6 years. He was still eager to justify his love. But you don't know, I have a grudge against Luna Green, I just never told you because I was afraid that it would be difficult for you. When you were chasing me, someone sarcastically told me that you were unwanted by Luna Green, and I still took it as a treasure. But you know, I don't listen to anyone when I'm in love with something I've decided to do, and at that time I just thought you were great. Ryan Moore was silent. I never told him about Luna Green or the gossip over the years. Even now, when I think about it, all I remember is how nice you were. I remember you standing up for me, I remember the rosebuds on the island, and I remember you giving me your love and your promises, he said. Even when we ended up like this, I never doubted your heart when you gave me that moment of promise. Ryan Moore's eyes reddened. When the house was lit, there was the sound of pots and pans and the aroma of food in the kitchen. I saw a young couple holding the hand of their child, who was mischievous and had to jump 2 frames of bricks. If we hadn't been separated, it would have been like this, wouldn't it, with a child, and we would have prepared dinner together. Yes, if we hadn't split up, there would have been a soft baby this winter, looking up at me and smiling in his carefully chosen stroller. I stand still and look at him. Ryan Moore, that's it, it's time to go our separate ways. I'll always remember what you said to me in your last confession. Fate is like a torrent, if you don't hold on to each other's hands, the next moment she'll disappear into the sea, and you won't see her again. I'm not stupid, I'm not unaware of Luna Green's ulterior motives, I'm not unable to see the ambiguity between you two. I just trusted you, trusted that you would hold on to my hand. But you didn't. Under the streetlight, Ryan Moore suddenly crouched down and lowered his head. I don't know what kind of expression he had, maybe he was crying. The crowd was like a sea, drowning his figure. The person who said he would hold my hand tightly in the beginning is now scattered in the sea of people. It would be a lie to say that I don't regret it. But regret is better than regret. Since it is impossible to seek fulfillment, it is better to turn back to the sea of bitterness and realize the cause of the orchid. Ryan Moore Extra. Vivienne Thompson said that before the divorce, Ryan Moore vaguely sensed that something was wrong. Vivienne Thompson, who was usually independent but afraid of hospitals, went to the maternity checkup alone. Vivienne Thompson, who loves to share her daily life to herself, stopped her last chat a month ago. But these are insignificant details, so Ryan Moore selectively ignored them. Vivienne Thompson is very sensitive and introverted. Around the time her parents were always fighting, she learned to read people's words from a young age, and she was more sensitive than others when it came to love or lack of love. She is very capable of enduring pain and does not shed tears easily even when she is sad. Ryan Moore has only seen her cry once in all the years he's been with her. It was the time he saved her life and was hospitalized. Unlike Luna Green, who is delicate and soft, tears and smiles come when she says they will, and can always make a man's heart soften easily. 19-year-old Ryan Moore couldn't imagine that there were girls like Vivienne Thompson in the world. Because 19-year-old Ryan Moore is in his first year of college, he's so cocky and arrogant that he thinks his family's money can smooth things over. From making a big deal out of wooing Luna Green to investing in his housemates' gaming dreams. Luna Green is his first love. She is a pampered young lady and as such has a lot of little tantrums. Though capricious, Ryan Moore is happy to coax her, and it takes nothing more than some money and thought. The money snowflakes down, and the pursuit can always be exchanged for a kiss. Ryan Moore thought for a while that this is how love works. That is, until the family broke up and Luna Green kicked him out without a second thought. The first time Ryan Moore noticed Vivienne Thompson was when everyone else would curiously ogle his down-and-out Cockney self. And she doesn't give him a second glance. Old jeans, a t-shirt with an unflattering collar, a school-issued duffel bag. The barbecue stand has few customers in the afternoon, so she reads quietly. The dining room table was so clean and bright, it looked like a desk. Ryan Moore watched her for days. In her free time, she reads books and packs up the unwanted bottles for the granny who scavenges for food. Occasionally, when her classmates came over for dinner, she entertained them graciously. Her name is Vivienne Thompson. The name really suits her. Ryan Moore couldn't say he liked Vivienne Thompson, at least not as much as he did Luna Green. It's just that if she's around one day and she's handing over takeout, Ryan Moore's day brightens up. What a nice girl, if only she could smile more. Then there was her being bullied. Even when she was scared to death, she just stood there stubbornly, refusing to show weakness. Ryan Moore meditated, no trouble, mix it up till graduation. But then she looked at him. That one look made his hand disobey him. This little girl is so strange. She didn't cry when she was given a hard time, she didn't cry when she was reprimanded by the counselor. How looking at him and smiling made her cry. Ryan Moore felt as if a piece of his heart had been washed away by the tears. Didn't want her to cry. That one thought kept Ryan Moore chasing for 2 years. When she was working part-time at the library, there were a number of boys who chased her. Ryan Moore heard the boy talking about how he was unreliable and not a good person in the past. Vivienne Thompson just politely rebuffed. That's not the Ryan Moore I see, and don't say anything bad about my friend to my face. All that gossip was like a storm, but Ryan Moore never once heard Vivienne Thompson complain to him. Ryan Moore didn't know there were girls like Vivienne Thompson in the world. She's introverted, reticent, cautious, and stubborn. Obviously 10,000 roses bloom in her heart for you, but she builds a high fence wall. One is not easy to give. Tuition is a student loan, living expenses earned. She lived on a shoestring and didn't apply for indigent status. Ryan Moore always thought it was Vivienne Thompson who was too strong. Why didn't she go begging her parents to make herself more generous? Why don't you ask them? Because if you did, you wouldn't give, you'd just embarrass yourself. It was many years later that Ryan Moore realized why Vivienne Thompson didn't cry. Because crying needs to be coaxed. Vivienne Thompson had no one to coax. On the surface, she was kind and gentle to everyone, but it was hard to get into her heart. Ryan Moore thought that Vivienne Thompson was so strong that she had her own way of thinking about how to deal with people. It took a long time to realize that she simply didn't expect anything from anyone. So when Vivienne Thompson said, "I hope we can be together forever," Ryan Moore knew that was a much heavier confession than "I love you." It meant that Vivienne Thompson was looking forward to their future. When Luna Green stood in front of him, Ryan Moore admitted that 8 years of hate had come to a head in that moment. With Vivienne Thompson out of the office, Luna Green returned the ring. She got down on her knees in the office and hoped that he would remember his old feelings. She says she regrets it and often dreams about the time we spent together. If Vivienne Thompson is a rose in the storm, Luna Green is a delicate doddering flower. By some miracle, Ryan Moore left that ring behind. And Luna Green. Ryan Moore thought Vivienne Thompson would be angry, but she said she believed him. And what started out as revenge somehow turned sour. Ryan Moore's heart suddenly moved when the boy jumped into his arms and called out for his dad. If there is a child, I have a child with Vivienne Thompson. But Vivienne Thompson sensed something was wrong. Ryan Moore was panicking, he didn't want to leave Vivienne Thompson. He fired Luna Green and tried to fade the relationship. But Luna Green, who was once arrogant and willful, was willing to do the smallest thing and begged him not to delete her. Until her baby got a fever. Luna Green leaned on him in the car and cried her eyes out. In that moment, Ryan Moore admitted that a man's vanity of being relied upon was satisfied. But it was only vanity, and he wasn't dim enough to divorce Vivienne Thompson over Luna Green. It's just that the feeling is as flimsy as stepping ashore to try to board a ship. Until Vivienne Thompson got pregnant. Ryan Moore hated to move the world in front of her. So with a phone call in the middle of the night, he and Luna Green had a showdown and never spoke again. When he turned around, Vivienne Thompson stood there, looking at him quietly. The moonlight was at her feet, and on a December day, she wasn't even wearing slippers, just looking at him. It was a look that Ryan Moore remembered so well, for some reason. Like when she'd begged him to relieve her. The pleading, the vulnerability, the reluctance in Vivienne Thompson's eyes almost drowned him. With just one look, Ryan Moore's heart suddenly ached, completely awake. What had he done? He'd almost ruined his future with Vivienne Thompson. Ryan Moore pulled the plug on Luna Green. Little by little, he filled the children's room. Vivienne Thompson sat on the couch, looking at him tenderly. The more Ryan Moore thought about it, the more scared he became. Such a good Vivienne Thompson, accompanied by his bittersweet Vivienne Thompson, he almost let her down. Vivienne Thompson looked so good in a dress, reminding him a little bit of the old days. It's snowing in the Ocean State. Ryan Moore's first memory wasn't of 19-year-old humiliation. It was waiting for her to walk with him in the library and braving the snow to buy her a hot plum cake. But Vivienne Thompson had said separate. Ryan Moore attempted to see in her face the slightest possibility of redress. Love, disappointment, even hate? But none of it was there. Those eyes, once full of love and attachment to him, were only indifferent at the moment. Ryan Moore suddenly remembered that Vivienne Thompson would not hate a person, she would only fade away. 2 years ago, they lived a life of clothing and food. Her parents came to the door. Ryan Moore, afraid that Vivienne Thompson would be upset, hurried to the company, only to find that he was faced with his parents' righteous accusations and abuse. There was no recrimination, no rebuttal. Vivienne Thompson just looked at them indifferently, not a single tear fell. That look was exactly the same as today. After Vivienne Thompson left, Ryan Moore started looking for a reason for her to leave. When she went to the maternity checkup alone, Luna Green was already his assistant at his side. So while Vivienne Thompson sits in the hospital waiting for the results, what is she thinking? Will she be lonely? Will she be scared? More like sad. So when the results came back, she delayed telling herself. After she left, Ryan Moore tried to get her back, only to realize they hadn't talked in 2 months. Her dialogue box got squeezed down a bit. The last one was when she saw a cloud that looked like a puppy on her way to work and sent it to him. But he didn't reply. What was he doing at that time? Oh, he was busy helping Luna Green find a house. Finally, the app alerted him that there was a video stored in the cloud. It's the surveillance he installed in the nursery. It's 2 a.m. Vivienne Thompson is sitting alone at her crib. It's cold and she's wearing a nightgown. She's looking at his cell phone. It's a video of his car that night. He rushes out in the middle of the night, pulls up in front of Luna Green. Then Luna Green gets into the car. She sat there frozen, turning the video over and over. She even zoomed in a couple of times to make sure it wasn't him in the driver's seat. The screen dimmed and so did Vivienne Thompson's eyes. She sat frozen for a long time, like a child who had done something wrong. She didn't even realize the cold wind was blowing on her. Tears fell woodenly, wetting a piece of carpet before she realized to wipe them. But the tears did not obey. The more she wiped, the more she wiped. Afraid of waking him up, she lowered her head and suppressed her sobs. Watching the frozen Vivienne Thompson, Ryan Moore only felt his heart clenched into a ball. His throat felt like it was clogged with a sharp olive kernel. It hurt like hell to catch his breath. He'd always thought that Vivienne Thompson these days, taking him back to haiku, bringing back memories of the love he'd felt. Talking to him again about separating was to get back at him. To lead him up to the island in the sky where the roses bloomed, and then push him down hard enough to fall to pieces. He was wrong, but it was actually herself she wanted to break. Vivienne Thompson is more determined than he thinks. Moving is her way of emptying her mind of every last memory. She's leaving behind everything that's connected to him. Vivienne Thompson, please, at least give me a chance, for the baby's sake. The baby's been aborted. She spoke calmly. Ryan Moore froze. The night I saw the video. I thought about giving you a chance, and if the video hadn't been made, I'd be fooling myself. You were worried when her baby got sick, so I figured it shouldn't matter if we lost ours. She looked at him, her tone light, no displeasure audible. After Vivienne Thompson left, Ryan Moore spent a long time trying to figure out how to make amends. Flowers flowed into Yue's office like seawater. He remembered the game he had made for Vivienne Thompson. He wanted to take a bouquet of roses with him, like he did when he passed the test, and begged her to give him another chance. If only I hadn't found the tail ring in his wallet. But the more open she was, the more scared Ryan Moore became. Vivienne Thompson said the opposite of love isn't hate, it's not caring. When she spoke to herself, she was still gentle and relaxed. But Ryan Moore knew that the 10,000 roses that were his had all died. Vivienne Thompson interrupts him when he mentions the mischievous child in front of him. Because she was no longer looking forward to the future with him. Clearly, the dusk of May warm wind is a very good weather. Ryan Moore felt like he was being pushed back into a rainstorm. She let go of his hand, leaving him alone. After 6 years, she rejected him for the 5th time. I trusted you. I thought you'd hold on to my hand. But you didn't. And,